First of all, I want to welcome you all to this complimentary workshop. We're going to present 8 strategies that you can implement in your business right away. And most people find at least $30,000 in their business during this presentation. And I'm going to just focus on 8 strategies in 5 areas. So I hope you all have downloaded the workbook, printed it out, ready to go, and get some positive results in your business during these crazy times. So this is live, and I will be monitoring the chat, like I mentioned. If I don't see your comment in the chat, I will follow up with you after the meeting, answer any questions you have that we did not address, and giving you details on the strategies. But we cannot ever always address everyone's specific concerns on this webinar just due to time. And at the end of the call, I definitely will provide you the opportunity to work with either myself or any of our qualified coaches I partner with who can address your specific industry questions, as well as offering unbelievable guarantees to get you guys some fantastic results in your business. So I promised you a no fluff, no BS workshop. There it is. And here's my only fluff. I promise I'll be brief and I'll get into the content. But for those of you who don't know me, I am Biz Coach Steve Feld, certified business coach, author, and professional speaker. Business owners hire me to reveal their hidden annualized profits because most are lacking a solid marketing strategy, internal systems to drive profits, and struggle with sustainable revenue. So I help them skyrocket predictable profits through clarity of message, mission, and management by simply implementing strategic systems and processes to gain a competitive edge for long-term success. So the bottom line is, without a strategic plan for success in your business, you're running around like a dog chasing their own tail. I've owned and operated 6 different businesses, turned around 3 others, and have worked with over 200 business owners to skyrocket their business results. And here is one of our case studies. They were a $10 million manufacturing company losing almost $1 million a month. Yeah, a month. 84 employees, 30,000 square foot building, 15% of it was actually utilized at 40% output capacity. And he was known in his space as offering a cheap product, not low cost, cheap. Banks were about ready to call on all the loans. He had an ex-partner who had a lawsuit against him, had a second mortgage on his house that he was behind on, and no one in his company even listened to him. To say he was stressed out, I think that'd be a major underestimated statement. And within the first 7 months of working with us, we actually put a GM in place to oversee the day-to-day operations. Morale improved. He actually increased his prices by 40% in the first month and then another 25% the following month. Volume only dropped from 10,000 units a month to 9,800. And then in the second month, it was 12,000. So even with the increases, he didn't lose business. He actually gained business. And then after the second price increase, it went up to 20,000 units. So that was an easy way to increase their revenue. We got his ex-partner to have a sit down with him. They all worked everything out. Lawsuit was dropped. And the ex-partner actually went away, happy, I might add. They reduced unnecessary staff by 80%. That's how much it was waste. And it fit just to fit in line with production and output. Negotiated with new vendors and suppliers, which reduced his cost by 35% immediately. So with all these changes, the bank extended his payback time, reduced his stress a little bit. He sold his building in the 8th month, moved into a more adequate space, saving almost $75,000 a month, and then bought out his second mortgage by the 8th month. So it definitely turned him around. And here's another quick case study for us. This retail business was doing $250,000 a year, barely breaking even. The owner has not taken a penny out of their business for herself since the day they opened. No funds in reserves. They paid all their bills 90 days out. Suppliers were constantly calling them, behind on her lease, and more people in shopping online were not coming into her store. So she actually followed some of the strategies that we're going to discuss today. And in her first 6 months of working with us, she created JV partners, joint venture partners, which increased her business by 16%, installed an e-commerce element and social media in her business, 28% increase in revenue, brought in new staff, trained them correctly, taught them how to upsell and cross-sell. That increased their revenue another 45%, started a monthly newsletter, landing pages, online offers, another 35% increase in revenue. And this is what she started doing it, and it was compounded month after month. So today's game plan, we're going to provide you with actionable strategies that you can use starting today that will triple your leads, double your conversions, and grow your revenue and profits exponentially. So I hope everyone's ready to begin, because here we go. Please go ahead and take notes in your workbook. We will be referring back to that a few times. We kind of already did this, so I'm going to skip right over it. And we might come back to you at Israel if your mic's working. So one of the biggest things, can you please put this in the chat? What is your business legal status? The reason we bring this up is that we see many times that most business owners have an incorrect legal status, and which is costing them nothing but money. So this is one thing we always want you to look at, is what is your legal status? And we do always partner up, and we always say, make sure you have the right CPA on your team. Having someone who just does taxes and they don't focus on the business side of things is probably not the best CPA for you. So definitely want to take a look at your business legal status. Make sure that you are getting all the money you need and keeping it out of the government's hands. Okay, and come on. All right, so we're going to talk about it. Some of the major hot buttons for most small business owners these days is the ability to generate leads. All small businesses want more leads, but few of them know how to successfully attract customers to their business. And as a coach, I'd like to show you the business owners that I have an in-depth knowledge and skill when it comes to generating leads. So here's the process I use to do this. If you're like 99% of the business owners I speak with, you may often feel lost, overwhelmed as you try to navigate through all the various options these days. Websites, social media, SEO, email marketing, Facebook, pay-per-click, and on and on. So let me do you a favor right now and completely remove that overwhelm for your life forever. And then how many of you are familiar with the 80-20 rule? For business owners, it means that 20% of what you do every day is generating 80% of your total annual revenue. In other words, you're only doing a few things daily that makes up most of your money. I can tell you specifically what makes up that 20%, and you really need to focus only on that today. Now, there are 5 different areas that make up that 20%. More leads, conversions, transactions, pricing, and profit. So I told you today, we're going to try to find you at least $10,000, over $30,000 in your business in this, hopefully this next hour. And what I'm going to do by that is just focus on these 8 strategies in those 5 areas. And I'm going to show you why these 5 areas are so crucial. I mean, we have hundreds and hundreds of strategies, but we're trying to keep this to an hour. So the very first strategy I'm going to cover today is how to make advertising work for your small business. This is a tool I use called the Profit Growth Calculator. And in your workbook, there's a blank profit growth calculator for you to complete for your business. And do you know by chance the exact numbers of leads, sales that you've made in the last 12 months? If you do, plug those numbers in your worksheet. But I'm going to plug in some numbers for a make-believe business just to give us a baseline. So they generate 1,000 leads, about 25% conversion. They do 10 transactions per client per year, and they're charging about $100 per transaction, and their gross profit margin is about 25%. So they're making about $62,500 annually. But look what happens when we simply increase those 5 areas by a meager 10%. You can see your annual revenue almost double from $62,500 to over 6 figures. By the way, that's the ballpark that most coaches play in, the 10% range. There's nothing wrong with that, believe me. But most business owners would kill to almost double their revenue, wouldn't you agree? So go ahead and calculate the numbers in those 5 areas by increasing them by 10% on your worksheet. And then look what happens when we increase it by 50%. Your business would skyrocket to almost a half, from $62,500 to almost $500,000. Now you may be thinking, come on, man, 50% gain in those 5 areas would be next to impossible. So go ahead and calculate those numbers in your workbook. But I want you to also think, how would this simple change be a difference in your business? How much of an impact would that make in your lives? And I would say improving your business by 10% in those key areas is very, very exciting. but achieving a 50% improvement is transformational. And I'm going to show you why 50% increase is child's play, and I'm actually going to prove it to you right now. So usually referrals and word of mouth are usually the #1 lead strategy and obviously an excellent lead source, but in fact, maybe the best one by far. But the problem is you never know when you're going to get them. They're not reliable, and you certainly can't generate them whenever you want. So let me ask you this. How many of you have a website? Do you know how many leads you're getting from your website? How many does it generate every month? If you're like most business owners, you probably don't know. And do you know how many sales your website produces every single month? Once again, most business owners really don't know. I can show you why your website isn't generating leads or closing sales for you. In fact, I'm going to give you a deeply hidden secret that the marketing gurus don't want you to know. And here's the successful key to marketing. You must be able to enter the conversation that's taking place in the head of your prospects. Or another way of looking at it is how to address their #1 question on their mind at the right time. And so how do you do this? Well, it's actually quite simple when you know and understand the fundamentals of marketing. The conversation that's taking place in every prospect's mind revolves around 2 major points. It's the problem they have and they don't want, and it's the result that they want but don't have. Now, believe it or not, there's actually a marketing formula that we follow that takes these 2 points into account and then spits out a message so compelling it practically forces you for your prospects to buy from you and not from your competitors. We call it the conversion equation, and it looks like this. Interrupt, engage, educate, and offer. So the interrupt is your headline, means it's the first thing someone sees when they visit your website, reads any of your marketing collateral, or hears you speak. When someone asks you what you do, it's the first words out of your mouth. That's your headline. And it must address the problem that your prospects have and they don't want. The engage part is your subheadline. It's the second thing your prospects see or hear, and it addresses the results your prospects want but don't have. And then the educate is the information you provide either verbally or in writing that presents evidence to your prospects that you and your product or services are superior in every way to your competition. Unfortunately, most businesses aren't different from their competitors. And that's why you might innovate your business and create what we refer to as a market dominating position. You must be unique, must stand out from the crowd. It must make your prospects say to themselves that they'd be absolute idiots to buy from anyone else but you, regardless of price. And then finally, what is your offer? You must create a compelling offer that makes it so irresistible that your prospects can't turn it down. And here's another crucial or critical fundamental aspect of marketing. It's because the market is so saturated with messages these days. Most prospects have become numb to most marketing. Following our conversion equation that can dramatically decrease this and overcome it. And it's a very, very powerful tool that comes into play. It will take multiple touch points before your prospect will buy what you're selling. Because most businesses today, it takes anywhere from 20 to over 100 touch points before a prospect makes their buying decisions. And following the conversion equation reduces the touch points somewhere between about 5 to 12 points. Here's the key to this. Most businesses don't follow up with their prospects at all. And this provides a huge window of opportunity for any business that does follow up to position themselves as the dominant force in their industry. But in order to have the opportunity to get your message in front of your prospects 5 to 12 times, you must find a way to collect their information. And that's the purpose of your offer. So we're going to talk about the buyer's journey. Most businesses offer something that only appeals to prospects we call now buyers. Prospects that are ready to make an immediate purchase. But unfortunately, now buyers make up less than 1% of the total number of prospects in the market of what you're buying or what they're buying and what you're selling. So these businesses offer typical things like free consultation, a discount, a coupon, free assessment, complimentary quote, or the biggest mistake of them all is call me. For most businesses, all that marketing material, their website, their business card, lists their phone number as their sole offer. and that only appeals to the 1% of now buyers. Well, the remaining 99% of viable prospects are investigating and gathering information about what you sell. They're searching for information because they want to determine who's offering the best value. You see, most prospects don't shop on price, they shop on value. The only reason prospects consider price is the most important thing is most of the businesses are not giving them any other value propositions to consider except for price. Remember what I said a moment ago about making your business unique, create a market dominating position. Most businesses don't do that. And since they, on all their competition, look exactly the same, prospects now are forced to shop on price. So with these fundamentals in mind, let's see how your website stacks up to them. I have an evaluation form that actually measures the success probability of any marketing you use for your business. It's called the conversion evaluator equation, and it measures 5 areas of your marketing. The 4 areas of the conversion equation, as well as overlooking the format of your marketing. It allows you to objectively rate your the marketing tool, whereas people typically provide options that have no basis on what to judge potential effectiveness. Now, there's a copy of the conversion equation evaluator in your workbook, and hopefully it'll guide you in the future and create terrific marketing. When I use this to evaluate most websites on a scale of 0 to 5, with 5 being the best, most sites rate about a 0.8. Marketing must rate at least a 3.0 or higher to be successful. And by successful, what I'm referring to is making you money, and in most cases, making most of your websites. It tells me that most websites are not compelling their prospects to take any action. So let me show you a website that we revised for a child psychologist. You can see what I mean. Here's the child psychologist's original website. This is typical for their profession, and 99% of his colleagues' websites look identical to this one. Generic headline, parenting advice resources from Dr. John Smith. He has to have a headline like that because he's attempting to be all things to all prospects. Basically, this doctor helps patients deal with adolescent problems. So let's look at the 9 areas he services. Emotionally disturbed children, behavioral problems, teen pregnancy, peer pressure, and so on. So let's compare this site with the fundamentals we just discussed. First, you must create a market dominating position. This doctor could actually create 9 of them by simply positioning his specialty in each of the 9 individual areas of treatment. So for example, let's say he decides to start with the top condition on his list, emotionally disturbed children. So these are kids that yell, scream, and constantly have high belligerent attitudes towards their parents. They scream at them, and they're known in some cases to threaten their parents. These kids can't be reasoned with, and these poor parents have no clue how to deal with this situation. So here's what we did that the doctor needed to do. Forget about the website completely. This doctor only needs to use a squeeze page, single page that's online that specifically addresses only this one condition. So this is what the page looks like. And what should it say? Well, remember the second fundamental. You must enter the conversation that's taking place in the head of your prospect. There's a problem that they have and they don't want, and there's a result that they want but they don't have. This is where we implement the first 2 components of the conversion equation: interrupt and engage. The headline is the interrupt, and it addresses the problem that they have and they don't want. So here's the squeeze page that we did for that doctor who did that. Notice the headline. Are you sick and tired of yelling, screaming, and belligerent attitude of your child? I think that addresses the problem that these parents have and they don't want. I think you'd say this is pretty much 100% bullseye. Now for the engage, it's a subheadline, and it addresses the result that they want but they don't have. Notice it says, now you can discover the secrets to controlling your child and instantly restore peace and quiet in your home. I think that hit bullseye number 2. Now let's look at the third conversion equation component, educate. In the doctor's original website, because he's trying to appeal to all prospects, his video said this: greeting parents, I want to welcome you to this remarkable parenting. You're going to find tons of great information here with hundreds of pages of articles. Now, think how ridiculous this sounds. If I'm one of those parents with a kid that has a belligerent attitude, do I want to read hundreds of pages of articles? Or am I searching for a specific solution to a specific problem? Now, do you see why most websites these days are basically a total and complete waste of time and money? They're not addressing the things that your prospects are truly looking for. So here's the script that we created for the doctor. As a parent, are you struggling to gain control of your parents' or your child's attitude and emotions? Is your child yelling and screaming at you while often displaying a belligerent and sometimes threatening tone that no matter what you do or try, you just simply can't get it under control? My name is Dr. John Smith, and I help parents like you every day to learn the techniques that will solve these frustrations and demonstrate destructive behavior patterns once and for all. In fact, let me prove it to you. So enter your name and email in the box on the right, and I'll send you a series of 60-second techniques that will immediately restore peace and quiet in your home. Think how might that help the prospect respond to this message. And it brings us to the final component of the conversion equation, the offer. So look at the doctor's original offer. It was free for a free consultation. The only prospect that will accept that type of offer are those now buyers. And remember, that's less than 1% of the total number of prospects looking for this type of help. So when your offer is call me, that's basically saying, let me sell you to your prospects. We're getting so used to this nonstop sales pitches these days that we actually resist calling anyone with every fiber of our being. Most businesses these days, or people these days, won't even answer their phone unless they recognize who's on the caller ID. And this type of offer is called an incentive offer. An incentive offer only works for common purchases, emergency situations, and impulse buys. Remember, most prospects don't buy until they've been exposed to your message somewhere between 5 and 12 times. So if you're telling your prospects to call you and most of them won't, then how do you keep marketing to them? Well, obviously you can't. So the secret to effective marketing is to offer something your prospects truly want, information. Now let's look at the last sentence in the child psychologist video script. Enter your first name and the email in the box on the right, and I'll send you a series of 60-second techniques that will immediately restore peace and quiet in your home. That offers zero risk to the prospect. It offers them what they truly want, a solution to their problem. So now they can receive it by just putting in their name and email address without having to speak to anyone or be subjected to any type of sales pitch. That's why the offer on this Dr. Squeeze page says, learn the secrets to gaining and maintaining complete control of your child in less than 60 seconds. That's a highly compelling offer that would appeal to a majority of the prospects directed to this page. Now you see how we call it a squeeze page. There's no navigation buttons on the page to distract the prospect. In fact, there's only one action they can take: enter their contact information. Otherwise, they have to close the page completely, and if they do that, that's when we can actually redirect them to the doctor's main website to see if there's something else that might grab their attention. That informational offer provides them with proof that this doctor can actually get them the results they're looking for. And then within that information, there's an offer to schedule a consultation with the doctor, which now they're more likely to do. So let's take a look at the doctor's numbers. From his original website, he was generating about 300 leads a month by using pay-per-click campaigns on Facebook. These leads are then sent to his original website. He will then average about 10% of those leads, or 30 prospects. They're going to see his free consultation and they will call to inquire about it. I said inquire about it, not request it. Out of the 10% that will call, only 10% of those will actually agree to the consultation, which equals 3 prospects. Fortunately for most professionals like this doctor, they typically convert 100% of their prospects they get in front of. So these 3 prospects will more likely become patients. And note, out of the 300 leads, the doctor winds up with 3 clients, and that is actually the national average. 1% of all leads generated will typically convert into a new client, and that's pretty pathetic. So let's take a look at the doctor's new squeeze page. First of all, let's leave his numbers at 300 a month. That squeeze page won't impact the number whatsoever. But let me ask you this, and give me your open and honest opinion. Do you think this new page will increase the number of prospects that will request the doctor's secrets to gaining and maintaining complete control of their child? The doctor was getting 10% of his old site. So put in the chat, what do you think the new percent might be that they're going to take advantage of this compelling offer? And yes, Jeff, squeeze page, landing page. Landing page, you land on the page to gain information. A squeeze page forces you to take one action. Same, but they're used interchangeably. Do you guys think that they would get more responses by people putting in their information on this kind of a page versus the last one? Yep. So most people usually guess about 50 to 70%, believe it or not. Well, you're probably right, but let's say conservative and let's say just 20% take his new offer. So that means 60 prospects would receive those secrets and actually see for themselves that this doctor's methods really work. And I believe you'll agree with me that the conversion rate would definitely increase. Most people usually gets about 50 to 70% on average, but I'll definitely agree with you. We know he's been converting 10%, so I'm going to just put in about 20%. So now 6 of them are requesting the consultation, and he's going to convert all 6 of them into patients. So that's an additional 3 patients per month. And if he's only charging about $800 for his services, we're going to stay super conservative, but in reality, it's normally 3 times that much. So that's just another $2,400 per month increase right there, which is only an annual increase of $28,800. And that's obviously a dramatic increase in revenue considering we're being basically ridiculously conservative. And all we did was make some slight changes to the doctor's site. So let me ask you this. Do you think we can get similar results for your business? Look in your workbook and see how many leads that you generated in the last 12 months. Do you believe your own numbers will increase if you just implemented this one simple strategy? Now, really quick, going back to the buyer's journey. Taking them from a future buyer to a now buyer is through the information and staying in touch with them. Think about how many leads you can generate an estimate of every single month. Now think of all those leads requesting your offer. Now, if we can create a similar process for your business and a compelling information for your prospects, just like we did for this child psychologist, do you think more prospects would respond? And what do you think that percent might be? Go ahead and throw your, how much you think that percent might be in the chat box. I'll give you a hint. Most typical business owners think it'll increase about 40 to 80%, believe it or not. But let's say super conservative and only double whatever your original opt-in rate was. So for example, let's say you estimated 500 prospects saw some form of your marketing over the last 30 days, but only 25% responded. That's a 5% opt-in rate. So jumping from 40% from 5% is quite a jump. But I agree it might happen, but we conservatively agree that 10% opt-in rate is easily a no-brainer. So do you realize that just this one change alone would double your current sales and revenue? And that's assuming we don't increase any of the number of leads or the final conversion rate, which it will. So for example, if your revenue last month was $25,000, this one change alone would add an additional $25,000 to your bottom line. And we're just getting started on this. So go ahead and take a moment and do some quick calculations how this one increase in your conversion rate could affect your own bottom line. And then put that number in your worksheet and on the page labeled 8 strategies next to the marketing and advertising section. Okay, now we're going to discuss joint ventures. And how many of you currently have a joint venture partnership? Go ahead and put some, if you yes or no, in the chat box. Okay. Great, thank you. Yeah, and JVs. Oh. Currently working, excellent, to build a network of partners. Yeah, it's a great, easy way. I'm going to show you the power of JVs. So JVs, basically, It involves two or more businesses that decide to form a partnership to share markets or endorse a specific product or services to their customer base, usually under a new revenue share agreement. And the key to this is creating successful joint partners is to find partners whose services are exactly the same type of clients that need or want what you sell. So we're all servicing the same market with different products and services. I'm going to use an example from a business that we all are probably familiar with, the wedding industry, florist. They're one of the most financially lucrative product lines as a florist for providing for flowers for weddings. And the average floral bill on a wedding usually is over $3,000. But what we've discovered about florists is that they fall into what we refer to as an event chain. An event chain is simply refers to the series of business that customers purchase from in a specific sequence. So, for example, a wedding will never ever take place until, well, the engagement ring is purchased from the jeweler. So the jewelers are actually the forefront of every wedding chain. Once the lady accepts the engagement ring, the event chain kicks into high gear. The next up is a wedding planner. Weddings today are really a big deal, as we are still seeing on TV. And they often, the women use the services of a professional wedding planner. Next, this lady probably knows exactly where she wants to get married. So the number one on her agenda is to book a church, chapel, synagogue where she wants the ceremony to be held. Next up, she wants to secure the venue for the reception. She knows that most venues book out months and months in advance, so locking that venue is very high on the priority list. Then she has to try on wedding dresses. Now starts the search for that perfect wedding dress. And then there's our florist. The bride-to-be will want to select floral arrangements for the wedding and the reception. And then after the florist comes the wedding cake. And then even after that, printer to print out the invitations and thank you cards. And depending on the financial ability of the bride-to-be, she may hire a limo, DJ, travel planner for the honeymoon, hotel, catering, and it goes on and on. But the event chain is typical in this industry. And for the florist, it specifically identifies a multitude of potential and very lucrative JV partners. And here's why this becomes so important. Because every business above the florist has the potential to endorse and send a prospect to the florist. But unfortunately, the florist has no control over the flow of prospects to them. So every business above the florist controls the JV relationship. So it's crucial for the florist to create such a compelling offer and relationship with these businesses that they feel obligated to send their prospects to them. And here's what's even better. The florist controls the prospect flow to all the businesses below them in the chain. And by establishing specific processes and procedures to make sure that their customers use those businesses, the florist can negotiate compelling offers with these business owners as well. So let's consider some numbers. So let's say the florist cultivates JV relationships with at least one business throughout this entire chain, and staying ultra conservative with our estimates, would you agree that this florist, since they have no control over the flow of prospects from these businesses, it's likely that they can obtain at least one referral each month from just one businesses above them? I think you'd also agree conservatively that since the florist controls the flow of prospects to the chain below them, they can easily send at least one referral to each of them below them every month. Now, keep in mind, these are very, very conservative estimates we're using here. Since the average floral bill for a wedding is about $3,000, then just one referral per month from these businesses above the florist increases their annual revenue by $36,000. Now, let's consider the businesses below the florist where the florist controls the referrals. Let's start with the wedding cake maker. The average sale price of a wedding cake is also about $3,000, and the florist can easily negotiate a 10% referral fee. So just that single referral per month produces an additional increase of $3,600 for the florist. Now let's consider a printer. The average sale price for a printing is about $1,000, and the florist again can receive another 10% referral fee. So that single referral per month can produce an additional $1,200. Now, if we just stop there, this florist has just increased their annual revenue by $40,800, and that's just using ridiculously conservative numbers. Now imagine if you continue to add up revenue produced by all the other additional revenue fees from florists could earn from all the other vendors in the chain. I mean, just one referral from each of those JV partners per month. This same process holds true for businesses that are not in the chain, but just like the florist, they simply identify partners who service the exact same type of clients that they need and want to sell to. Now, I realize that this looks easy, but I'm telling you right now, it's not. And here's why. Not only do you have to properly identify who would make an excellent joint venture partner for your business, but you also must determine the order in which to approach each one and how to approach them. And it's when to approach them. It's critical that you do this properly, or else you'll wind up burning through all of your potential JV partners and come out with nothing in return. So let me ask you a quick question. Just off the top of your head, write down in your notebook or your workbook how many potential JV partners you can estimate might be a good fit for what you sell. Put that quick number in the chat and be conservative, because how many referrals you might estimate by the possible of dozens of other businesses who are compelled to refer their customers to you for additional purchases. Go ahead and throw those numbers in your workbook as well. And conservatively, could you say that you can get 3 referrals every month that buy from you? That's less than 1 per week. So how much additional revenue would that add up monthly? And then you multiply that revenue times 12. Put that number in your worksheet under the 8 strategies next to joint ventures. And I should mention, well, there's one more thing before we move on. Remember, we discussed the critical importance of creating a highly compelling informational offer that would promise so much value to prospects that they're going to knock down your door to get it. Suppose the florist offer this informational offer in their marketing. 5 things every bride should know to avoid disaster on their wedding day. This offer would place tons of the prospects into your drip campaign, and as a result of this tremendous increase of sale, those new sales can then be referred to your new JV partners, and you collect multiple referral fees from them every single month. Now, this will absolutely dwarf the revenue we just uncovered for you here. And what I found really exciting about this JV is this strategy I help my clients implement immediately, and it's being generated instant cash flow for them right out of the gate. But let's keep on going. There's a lot more revenue I can find here for you. So far, we only discussed 2 different lead generation strategies. Now let's discuss 2 conversion strategies. We're going to start with downselling. And I'm not going to put anyone on the spot and ask if you have a downsell strategy. If you don't, just make a note in your workbook about implementing a downsell strategy. And a downsell strategy is nothing more than offering a prospect an alternative at a lower price when they decline your original offer. The goal is to turn the prospect into a client so you do not have to realize some short-term financial benefit, but you gain the opportunity to do business with them in the future. Now, you may be using like a similar quality package in your products or services, or a lower quality item. It could be a stripped down version of your current offerings that contain fewer bells and whistles. It can even be even a special first-time buyers or special buyers. For example, this one I think we're also familiar with is a local health clubs. They're always trying to sell new memberships, and they want you to buy the full 1-year membership. Now, if they fail, then they try to sell you the 90-day makeover. If that fails, then they might go into the 30-day or possibly 1-week trial membership. They know if they could just get you to buy something, the odds of them that you're staying with them for long term goes up exponentially. So let's consider the florist. Most guys show up to the florist to buy roses for their better half. Valentine's Day, their birthday, anniversary, Mother's Day, and so on. But suppose a dozen roses cost, we'll say for this example, $50, just to make it simple. And the guy doesn't have that much money to spend. Since he has flowers on his mind, do you think he would consider an alternative to this substitute and being just as romantic? Now, do you realize if the alternative is $25 and the florist only uses that downsell once each day, that's highly conservative? That would add almost an additional $8,000 in annual revenue to them. Just that one little downsell. And that's just one possible downsell opportunity. Suppose they had a floral alternatives for weddings, lower price options for funerals, and so on. Do you think your typical price point? Do you think you can come up with an alternative for half that price? Think how many of those downsell opportunities that you can conservatively estimate that you could sell each week. Now multiply that by 52 and put that number in your workbook on the sheet 8, on the sheet that says 8 strategies next to downselling. Now that's just one downsell. Let me ask you a question. When a prospect doesn't buy from what you sell, how many times do you follow up with them? Now, if you're like most businesses, probably not even once. Okay, next, small business owners focus primarily on generating leads. But remember, on average, less than 1% of your prospects are now buyers. 99% are not ready to purchase that day, and many of them will buy sometime in the future. So if you continue to nurture them and stay in touch with them on an ongoing basis. Unfortunately, the vast majority of small business owners rarely, if ever, follow up with their prospects after their initial contact with them. Most small business owners are not taking advantage of drip campaigns. And here's why it's so important. I mentioned this to you earlier, but I really want to enforce it. So 80% of all sales occur between the 5th and 12th point of contact between businesses and the prospects. 80%. So you're starting to see this opportunity here. This is where you need to implement a drip campaign. And this is their second lead conversion strategy that can add a significant revenue into your business. Now, a drip campaign automatically delivers a set of form communication to customers or prospects on a predetermined and scheduled basis. But here's the cool part about this. Do you remember earlier when we were discussing how you need to create a compelling offer that practically forces prospects to request it? Once you create a compelling offer, all you have to do is take specific segments from that offer and send it to your prospects on a consistent basis. Let me show you an example of how this was done for a client that owned a sunroom company. So when homeowners consider a type of remodeling projects, whether it's kitchen, bathroom, or in this case, a sunroom, when they love to get their hands on what they might call an idea guide. And it features models and state-of-art concepts. So here's the idea guide that was developed for this sunroom company. It's pretty impressive. Well, what you hear is the sad thing is this type is an informational offer. Most prospects will not read this, but they will request it with every intention of reading it, but only about 20% of them will actually read it. But that is definitely okay, because this has already done its job, which was to compel the prospects to give us their contact information so we can begin our 5 to 12 touch points. And we simply use this information in the idea guide to do that quickly, efficiently, and very inexpensively. So here's a few examples from the sunroom company. Notice the idea guide, it starts out with listing 7 benefits of owning a sunroom. Benefit number 1, enjoy the outdoors 365 days a year. Obviously, that's a huge reason why someone buys a sunroom. But unfortunately, 80% of the prospects never read that. So let's reintroduce that benefit in our drip campaign and drive it home to our prospect. This sunroom company did that using a 6x11 oversized postcard, and they could have done it also through email. Here's a sample of the postcard that they emphasize this benefit. It emphasizes the benefit in number 1, saying enjoy the outdoors 365 days a year. And then even shows benefit number 4 states owning a sunroom recharges your solar batteries. So they also had a postcard to reinforce that fact. But my point in showing you all this is to emphasize that once you create a compelling informational offer, you pretty much have everything you need to implement a drip campaign. So let me show you what I mean, what happens on the first day that you start your drip campaign. I'm going to go back to our favorite child psychologist here and show you the impact of a drip campaign. So the psychologist generated 300 leads a month. And conservatively speaking, we said he'd average about 60 prospects that would opt in for his informational offer. And of those that did, 6 of them would become clients. So that means 54 prospects did not buy his services yet. Those are the prospects that are now receiving the doctor's drip emails. Out of those 54 prospects, an additional 2 of them, which typically will buy in the next 30 days. This is a pattern that continues month after month, as long as the doctor continues to stay in touch with these prospects and continues to offer them value. So every month, 54 new prospects go in the top of the doctor's funnel, and 2 additional sales per the 54 prospects continue to be delivered at the bottom of the funnel. So, here's the numbers of what they would look like over the first year. In the drip campaign, in the nurture campaign, if you will, at the end of 1 year, 3,600 new prospects. And then the doctor produced a staggering 156 clients through this drip campaign. And that's just 1 year. And that's 72 new clients through his squeeze page. Now, the growth pattern continues year after year for as long as the doctor maintains this sales process. But here's the problem. By month 12, the doctor is generating 30 new patients every month. Is that a number the doctor can logistically handle? I mean, there's a limit to the number of patients this doctor can reasonably handle. And when that number is reached, this doctor can literally stop all lead generating efforts and just continue on with his drip campaign to continue to produce additional patients way in the future. Now let's calculate this strategy, how it would conservatively impact your business. Now remember, 80% of the sales take place only after 5 to 12 contact points. And none of your competitors are doing anything like this whatsoever. Since you're going to be the only one in your market with this in place, you can logically expect to see a dramatic increase in both sales and conversions. However, for today's exercise, stay extremely conservative and calculate just a 10% conversion rate on your drip campaign. Put that number in your workbook and what your total sales were last year. Now take 10% of that total and put it in your workbook on the 8 strategy sheet next to drip campaign. It's an ultra conservative estimate of what a drip campaign can easily produce in your business over the next 12 months. And that's, it's going to double every year, year after year, for as long as you keep your drip campaign in place. I think that's pretty exciting. So let's move on to our third area of our profit formula. It involves increasing transactions with your prospects. In other words, getting them to buy from you more frequently than they do now. And there's 2 powerful revenue generating strategies that will work here. First one is upsell and cross-selling. So I'll give you an example. Best example I can come up with is McDonald's. And the kid behind the counter asks you, would you like your meal supersized? That's upselling. And then when the same kid asks you, would you like apple pie with that supersized meal? That's cross-selling. So the question would be, next question is, would you like fries with that? Believe it or not, that took 20 seconds to train. 20 seconds to train. And that has, at the last time I looked, it estimated to be $1.2 billion additional revenue for McDonald's over that one question. So upselling means offering a higher grade or quality size that the customer might be interested at the point when they're ready to purchase. And then cross-selling, offering product services which complement the item that the customer is interested in at the point the customer is ready to buy. And then right now, 34% of prospects will actually buy additional products or services at the time of their original purchase, only if they're asked to do so. Most businesses never ever ask them. So they're losing out on this lucrative opportunity to dramatically increase their revenue. So let me show you a brilliant example of this. A restaurant was experiencing reduced revenue following this advice, or reduced, they increased their revenue. They actually analyzed their profit margin by every one of on their offerings. And they found out their highest profit margins were wine, appetizers, and desserts. They literally doubled their sales on all 3 of these by training the staff to offer them to the customers on every sale. So, for example, they instructed their staff to bring the appetizer and wine cart to each table before the customer ordered and offered free little bite-sized samples. The staff repeatedly did the same process at the end of each customer's meal by bringing the dessert cart around and giving a sample size of each dessert so everyone at the table as a way to entice them to buy more. Well, the taste and reciprocity instantly doubled their appetizer, wine, and dessert sales, their highest margins. Now, the restaurant also increased its total number of revenue by implementing an initial order upsell strategy with the wait staff. They train the staff to describe the more expensive entrees on the menu and give the customers more of a personal recommendation. Most patrons have a tendency to go with the staff's recommendations, so this easily increased the total entrees by 15%. Now let's assign a revenue figure for the strategy in your business. Remember that even a mediocre business can expect a 34% increase by implementing the strategy. But since you want to be extremely conservative in your estimates, Let's factor in just 10% increase for your business. How much additional revenue would 10% add to the bottom line on your business? So go ahead and put that amount in your workbook on the 8 strategy sheets next to upsell and cross-sell. And I'm going to get a drink while you're doing that. So next, we're going to look at the second strategy of increasing transactions and discuss how you can expand the number of products and services you offer. Now, if you're already providing quality products and services, and I know your current customers are open to a variety of items that you introduce, recommend, or endorse to them, look, your current customers trust you, and I believe so, otherwise they wouldn't be your customer. Then they will demand additional products and services from you because they do trust you. So unfortunately, most businesses don't have additional products or services to offer their client base. And I want to ask yourself, what other kind of products or services your customers can find valuable? Once you make that list of those offerings, go out and contract with the providers to set those offerings and set them up yourself as an affiliate or negotiate a referral fee. Consider a landscaper. I mean, they make their clients' lawns and homes into a showcase. These homeowners may also need tree trimming, decking, fencing, stonework, sprinkler system, outdoor lighting, patio, kitchens, maybe even a swimming pool. The landscaper doesn't perform these services, but they know they're in a prime position to make professional recommendations, and most homeowners will go with those recommendations. So the landscaper can easily negotiate anywhere from a 10 to 25% referral fee from each of those varieties of other service providers, and in that process, double their revenue. So my question to you is this: how many additional offerings could you be making right now? I mean, here's just a small list of additional services that we offer, but you can offer them as well to your clients. How many additional products or service providers could you contact today and effectively negotiate or deal with them that's a win-win? Let's conservatively estimate that this strategy will add an additional 10% on your current total revenue to your bottom line. So in your workbook, go ahead and write down what that would do for your business on the 8 strategies page next to offer more products. And then we're going to check out the strategy for our fourth profit formula component, higher prices for what you sell. I like to use the bundling strategy here. Bundling is simply a process of grouping together certain products to create a package, which then are sold to the client. When you do this, you're completely eliminating the biggest complaints small business owners have these days. You're competing on price. So bundling removes that price from the equation by creating an apples to oranges comparison. And you have to remember that customers are shopping on value, not price. But unfortunately, small business owners are lousy at conveying their value proposition. So therefore, the price becomes the only value proposition left to the consumer. The real key to success in marketing is to offer more value than your competitors. And then prospects will pay twice the price if they believe that they're receiving 4 times more value. But unfortunately, businesses, they're in a vain attempt to increase their value, begin to offer discounts, and that often destroys margin. And did you know if some businesses discount their price by a mere 10%, now they have to sell 50% or more just to break even? I'll give you an example of that. So for example, if you sell a widget for $100 and you have a 30% profit margin, so you're making $30 for every widget you sell, that means your cost basis for that widget is $70. So if you discount that widget by 10%, now you're selling it for $90 instead of $100, your cost basis is still $70. Now you're only making $20 in profit instead of $30. For this business to make $1,000 in profit selling their widgets at $100 each, they would need to sell 33.3 widgets. Okay, but by discounting their price by 10%, now they need to sell 50 widgets. And they need to sell 50% more widgets just to get back to the original profit margin. But consider this. When was the last time you saw a business offer a measly 10% discount? Most of the time they're offering 20 to 40% discounts. And then they scratch their heads why they're wondering why they're going broke. And to add even more bad news on top of this already bleak scenario, did you know that the latest research shows that discounting actually doesn't increase the prospect's buying decision unless that discount is at least 40% or more. It's amazing. So you want to know the closely guarded secret successful businesses want you to know, don't want you to know, and this is it. Just stop discounting. Instead, innovate your business so you offer more value than your competitors, even if that means increasing your prices. Because when you discount your price, you lose the full value of every dollar you discount. And bundling increases that perceived value of what they buy more of. I know we're coming up on an hour, gentlemen. Can you all stick with me for a little bit? Hopefully we're sharing some good content with you. Okay, great. Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to keep on trucking. And I'm going to show you, consider a home builder or remodeler contract. I just did this with someone recently. And they typically contract with certain suppliers that offer huge volume discounts, especially for like electronics. So one builder, he agreed to buy multiple packages for a wholesale entertainment. That one always trips me up. Okay, for a 55-inch HD TV, complete quality surround system, a complete home security system, including surveillance cameras and all the entry points in the house, and a complete fire and protection and monitoring system. So the retail price for the package was $22,800 installed. But the builder acquired them in volume for around $6,500 since installation would not be part of the costs. And since the builders already has the home stripped down to the studs, installation now can be handled during the actual project by their crews for pennies on the dollar. Now imagine that this builder is competing with other builders in moderately priced homes. All the builders offered their homes for about $150,000 in that price range. Our builder offered their home for $156,500, which included the additional $6,500 out of their pocket for the expense for the builder, and their home comes standard with a $22,800 home entertainment and full security system for free. So which builder would you buy from? And in fact, if this builder offered that new home for $160,000, do you really believe that additional $3,500 would prevent anyone from buying that home? It does sound like it's a much better deal than the $150,000 home without the system. And if additional $3,500 increase did make a difference due to the loan qualification standards for certain prospects, the builder always has the option of reducing the price back down to $156,500. They can evenly maintain their original price at $150,000 and lower their profit margin on each home sold. So this would allow them to double their sales volume, practically double their overall profits every year. And after all, they're still making around 30% profit margin at the $150,000. A home remodeler can use the same kind of potential or positioning for every remodeling job bid that they're on. So are you starting to see the potential here? Here's the marketing campaign that would actually develop for this particular builder. So the home security system, the entertainment system, it wasn't something that they normally dealt with. It wasn't a product that they typically carried. They simply discovered that this was something their prospects wanted to have included in their homes that they were purchasing. So the builder went out and created an affiliate relationship with a home electronic provider and wound up doubling their sales. So you just need to sit down and create a list of all the potential products and services that you could bundle for your business. For the purpose of staying on time, I think we could do this. I mean, bundling can increase business revenue 25 to at least 40%. We can conservatively say that expect an increase by a minor 10% revenue increases in your first year of using this strategy. So go ahead and write down any additional revenue under the offerings additional revenue in the 8 strategy sheet in your workbook. Now we're going to discuss one of our final profit formula component, more profits. Obviously, there's 2 major ways to increase your overall profitability: increase revenue or decrease your costs of doing business. So we're going to discuss increasing your profitability first. It's a really simple strategy, and that's just raise your prices. I gave you an example of one of our clients that did that before. Most small business owners have never raised their prices, and that's because they don't know that the facts when it comes to increasing their prices. They're scared to death that any price increase, no matter how small, will lead to mass exodus of their customers. But that's really not true. Let's revisit our earlier widget example. You sell a widget for $100, decide to increase the price by 10% to $110. Will that small increase really lead to a major loss of customers? Honestly, I believe a few will leave. They will be most likely your biggest price shoppers, and they have no loyalty to you or patronage to your business anyways. So they're going to beat you down for price any chance they can get. And the moment you begin to make a decent profit, they're going to leave you in a heartbeat for the next business willing to accept a financial heartbeat, a beatdown. But even though some customers, you're going to lose some through attrition, but to what extent? I mean, let's take a look at some numbers. The business selling this widget is now making an additional $10, which is all down pure profit. Right there, that's a 33% profit increase. For this business to make $1,000 in profit selling their widget at $100, they'd need to sell 33.3 widgets. By increasing their price by 10%, now they only need to sell 25 widgets. That means just to break even, this business would have to lose 25% of their customers over a measly 10% price increase. And that's just not going to happen. And of course, we need to perform this throughout the business analysis on your business and determine the most lucrative price increases for you. And it's definitely a strategy I highly recommend to all and any of my small business clients to help them increase revenue. There's simply no faster way or easier way to generate additional revenue. But now let's discuss option 2, decrease your cost of doing business. One of the best ways people decrease their costs is labor. And that's a huge expense for almost every business. Salary, benefits, Social Security, taxes, unemployment, workers' comp, it adds up quick. And it's like, what can you do about it? Well, you really have to have the labor to operate your business, especially with all these other strategies that we begin to look at to exponentially grow your business. But most businesses have not taken the time to analyze to see if they have the right employees in the right positions and if they're performing well. So if you, the CEO, owner of, are emptying out all the trash cans, that's an example of the right employee in the wrong position, and it's costing you money. Hire someone for 10, 12 bucks an hour to do that. Your time is way more valuable than that. Look at your staffing. Sometimes interns can be beneficial to your business and reduce labor costs, while at the same time, you're grooming talent to become part of your organization. So put that number, how much that would increase your revenue by raising prices and lowering costs in the 8 strategy sheet in your workbook next to increase price, decrease costs. So now let's add up all those additional revenue that we just found for your business. Go ahead and total them all up on that 8 strategy sheet. And let's see what we conservatively uncovered for you so far in annual revenue. And keep in mind, it's not a one-time increase. This is revenue that you're going to generate year after year, as long as you diligently execute these strategies. And here's the real exciting news. All these additional revenues that we just discovered are a mere drop in the bucket. And let me explain by that. Remember that when we started the meeting, I showed you the profit growth calculator. If you increased your revenue in 5 profit areas by a mere 10%, you would see annual increase by almost double from 62,000 to over 6 figures. And if you increase by those 5 areas from 50%, your business would skyrocket from 62,500 to almost $500,000 annually. And I told you that most coaches work in the 10% range. And to keep today's numbers very, very conservative, that's not the range I've kept. Well, I'm trying to keep your revenue into those ranges throughout this meeting. But 10% is not the ballpark we play in. We play in the 50% plus higher ballpark, and we have for many, many years. So can you imagine what your revenue will look like for 50% or higher increases in each of those 5 areas? But I personally want to think of all the additional revenue as secondary, and that there's something far more important here at stake. When you execute each of those strategies, that we just created a system for your business that will generate consistent long-term number of leads, conversions, and sales on an ongoing basis. This system will, the systemization of your business will create a self-sustaining model that will run on its own without having you to be there all the time. And that's where you start not only to gain economic freedom, but also freedom from time. So consider this. If someone owns a business where they build websites, every time they deliver a website to a client, they have to go out and find a new client. It's a never-ending process for them. But when you execute these 8 strategies, you will always have new orders coming in your pipeline thanks to compelling and powerful advertising, coupled with your drip campaign. You're going to have JVs sending you revenue. You're going to have upsell, downsell, cross-sells taking place daily, along with selling additional affiliate products and services to your customers. And you're going to implement higher pricing that your customers are going to be willing to pay you, thanks to the higher perceived value that you created. And you're going to put lower costs that will add more money on your bottom line. So the only thing standing in the way is now implementing these strategies in a timely and effective manner. And I know what you're thinking. It's like, how will I ever get the time to do all this? Maybe you were worried that you don't have the training to do this. So let me ask you this. What happens if we help you do that? Would you like us to do that for you? And what if we can show it to you how to do it without costing you an additional cent? Anybody interested? We could definitely reach out to Steve, other Steve, and I'll explain what I have in mind. I mean, we have a variety of coaches on programs ranging anywhere from $9.97 a month to all the way up $5,000 a month. My partner coaches and I have agreed to due to all this craziness right now, that we'll get dramatic financial increases for everyone that we get in front of. And there's something else I'd like to emphasize. When someone makes a claim that we can make you money, we're going to not charge you for it, a fee to do it. They should be able to back it up and do that with ironclad guarantees. So I'm actually going to give you an ironclad guarantee right now. Our coaches guarantee a minimum of 100% annual return on investment in just the 30 days. This makes the decision to hire our coaches definitely a no-brainer. How can we help you from here? This will allow us to, we'd like to talk to you a little bit further. How can we start working with you to have money coming into your business right away? Now, if you're ready to see dramatic financial results in your business, then schedule a quick appointment with Steve or myself, and we'll introduce you to one of our coaching partners so we can get started. Now, I can put a calendar link in the chat. Steve, can you put yours in there as well? So Steve and I are very excited working with you and achieve your business and personal goals. I just want to say this is Biz Coach Steve Feld, thanking you for joining us today. I hope you found the information valuable. We're going to stick around to answer any questions you have, but we'd love to help you implement all these strategies in your business right away. There's no better way to get faster and better results than with a coach. And as a token of my appreciation, if you didn't have the chance, I'm going to personally invite you to download mine and Steve's ebook, our 45 Minutes Business Breakthrough, as a thank you for it. I'm going to take a quick look at the chat. I'm going to stop sharing here real quick and answer any questions you guys might have.